My name is Aubrey Sinclair. I'm 24 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived my life chasing one thing: my mom's approval. Graduation day was supposed to be the highlight of my life. I had worked endless nights, balancing part-time jobs with full-time classes, fighting exhaustion just to prove to my family, especially my mom, that I was worthy of pride. I imagined her smiling in the audience, maybe even tearing up, finally looking at me the way I had always wanted. Instead, it became the most humiliating day of my life. When they called my name, my heart was pounding with excitement. I walked across the stage, my gown swishing at my feet. And then, it happened. My heel caught the edge of the step, and I fell, face first, in front of everyone. The auditorium gasped, but over that sharp silence, I heard something that cut me deeper than the fall itself. My mom's laugh. Not a nervous giggle, not a stifled chuckle. A loud, sharp laugh. The kind she used when she found something ridiculous. And later, when people asked what happened, she didn't defend me. She didn't comfort me. She smirked and said, "Oh, Aubrey must have been drunk." That explains it. Everyone laughed along, even my relatives. Nobody questioned her. Nobody defended me. That night, lying in bed with mascara-stained cheeks, I realized something I had ignored for years. This wasn't just one bad moment. It was the final straw in a lifetime of them. And that's when I knew something had to change. Growing up as Aubrey Sinclair was like living in a constant audition for love that never came. From as early as I can remember, my mom, Linda, always had a sharp tongue and a quicker laugh when it came to my mistakes. If I spilled milk at the breakfast table, she'd roll her eyes and mutter, "Of course it's Aubrey." If I brought home a drawing from school, she'd compare it to my cousin's and point out what I should have done better. My dad, Robert, wasn't cruel, but he wasn't present either. He worked long hours, and when he was home, he avoided conflict by staying silent. If Mom criticized me, he'd simply turn the page of his newspaper pretending not to hear. I used to hope that maybe, secretly, he was proud of me, but the silence hurt almost as much as my mom's words. I had one younger brother, Ethan, who was the golden child in my mom's eyes. Every achievement of his, whether it was scoring a goal in soccer or simply finishing his homework, was met with applause and praise. When I did the same, it was expected, barely acknowledged. I learned quickly that no matter how much I tried, I would always come second. There were moments I tried desperately to win her over. I remember practicing for hours before the school spelling bee, hoping that if I won, she'd finally see me differently. I stood on that stage trembling, gave my best, and when I took second place, I looked into the crowd for her reaction. She wasn't smiling. She was whispering to my aunt, shaking her head as if I had embarrassed her. Those little cuts added up. Over the years, it became clear. Nothing I did was ever enough for her. And the saddest part? Deep down, I kept believing that if I just worked harder, studied longer, or behaved better, one day she might finally say, "Aubrey, I'm proud of you." But that day never came, and graduation proved it never would. By the time I reached college, my entire identity was built around one silent promise to myself. If I achieve enough, maybe my mom will finally see me. I took on more than most people my age could handle: full-time classes, 2 part-time jobs, and endless late-night study sessions. While my friends went out to parties, I stayed in the library, fueled by coffee and desperation. I didn't just want good grades, I needed them. Every A on my transcript felt like a potential key to unlocking my mom's approval, but no matter how hard I worked, her reaction never changed. When I called to tell her I'd made the dean's list, she barely paused before saying, "Well, that's what you're supposed to do in college, right?" When I explained how I was saving up for my graduation gown, she laughed and said, You're acting like you're the first person in the family to graduate. Don't make such a big deal out of it. The irony was, I was the first. Neither she nor my dad had gone to college. I thought that would matter. I thought it would mean something. My brother Ethan, meanwhile, seemed to shine without effort. Mom boasted about him to anyone who would listen. His new car, his promotions, his charm. Whenever I came home, it was as if I was invisible, sitting quietly in the corner while the spotlight stayed on him. Still, I pushed forward. Graduation was my finish line. I pictured that day over and over. Me, walking across the stage, holding my diploma high, my mom clapping and cheering from the audience. I imagined the smile on her face, the pride in her voice when she'd tell people, "That's my daughter." I clung to that fantasy through every sleepless night, every exam, every shift at the diner. Because if she couldn't love me for who I was, maybe she would at least respect what I had accomplished. But deep down, there was a gnawing fear I refused to face. What if nothing was ever enough? What if the moment I dreamed of didn't exist? I didn't know it then, but that fear was about to come true, louder and clearer than I ever imagined, on the very day I thought I had finally earned her pride. Graduation day was supposed to be the chapter that erased all the pain of my past. I woke up early, ironed my gown until every crease was perfect, and spent extra time curling my hair, telling myself, "Today, Mom will finally be proud." When I arrived at the auditorium, the air buzzed with excitement. Students hugged their families, parents held flowers and balloons. I searched the crowd until I spotted her, my mom, sitting with Ethan and my dad. She wasn't smiling, she was scrolling on her phone. Still, I told myself, maybe when my name is called, she'll look up. The moment came. Aubrey Sinclair. My name echoed across the stage and my chest swelled with pride. I took my first step, heart racing. But then, my heel snagged on the edge of the stage. In an instant, I stumbled forward, crashing down in front of hundreds of people. The audience gasped. My face burned, my palms stung from hitting the floor. And then I heard it. Clear as a bell, sharp as a knife, my mom's laugh. It wasn't nervous or sympathetic. It was cruel, unrestrained, like she was watching a comedy show. My classmates glanced toward her, and that only made her laugh harder. Later, at the family dinner, she twisted the knife even deeper. When my aunt asked what happened, Mom smirked and said, "Oh, Aubrey must have been drunk." That would explain why she couldn't even walk straight. The table erupted in laughter. Even my dad chuckled softly. Ethan stayed silent, eyes fixed on his plate. Nobody defended me. Nobody told her to stop. I forced a smile, but inside, something snapped. If even my proudest day meant nothing to her, if she could take the moment I had worked for my entire life and turn it into a joke, then I finally understood. I would never be enough for her. And for the first time in my life, I stopped wanting to be. That night after graduation, I locked myself in my room. My cap and gown lay crumpled on the floor, the tassel torn from where I had clutched it too hard. My mascara-streaked reflection stared back at me in the mirror, and for the first time, I didn't recognize the girl I saw. She looked broken, used up, empty. I sat there for hours replaying everything. Mom's laugh, her cruel words, the way my family went along with it. I realized I'd spent 24 years begging for scraps of love from people who never intended to give it. And in that moment, the decision came quietly but firmly. I had to leave. Within 2 weeks, I put my plan into action. I sold what little I owned, my old laptop, my secondhand furniture, even the necklace my mom once gave me for Christmas that I had secretly hated. I quit my part-time job at the diner, packed 2 suitcases, and bought a one-way bus ticket to a small city 3 states away. When the bus pulled away from the station, I looked out the window at the skyline of my hometown fading in the distance. Strangely, I didn't cry. For once, I wasn't mourning what I was leaving behind. I was relieved. Starting over wasn't glamorous. I rented a tiny studio apartment with peeling wallpaper and a leaky faucet. I worked as a cashier at a grocery store during the day and picked up freelance writing gigs at night. The loneliness at first was unbearable. No family dinners, no familiar streets, no one to call when I got sick. But slowly, something new began to grow in the silence. Peace. For the first time in my life, I wasn't being mocked or compared. Nobody laughed when I stumbled. Nobody belittled my dreams. Instead, I found people who appreciated me as I was. Coworkers who invited me to coffee, neighbors who smiled when they saw me in the hallway, and eventually, friends who felt more like family than the one I was born into. Piece by piece, I built myself back up. I discovered my love for creative writing, and I started submitting short stories online. To my surprise, people resonated with my words. They didn't know my past, and they didn't care. They just saw me, my talent, my voice, my truth. And in that new life, I realized something powerful. I didn't need my mom's approval to be worthy. I never had. For a while, my new life felt untouchable, like I had finally escaped the storm. But storms have a way of chasing you, even miles away. It started with whispers. A coworker mentioned that someone from my hometown had been spreading rumors online. I didn't have to guess who. My mom was telling people I was an alcoholic, that I had embarrassed the family, and run away because I couldn't handle responsibility. Her favorite line, apparently, was, "Poor Aubrey. She always was unstable." The lies stung, but they didn't break me. What did shake me was the guilt-laced messages that soon followed. My dad left voicemails saying Mom wasn't feeling well, that she cried at night and missed me. Ethan sent a text once. "She's not perfect, but she's still Mom. Maybe you should come home, but I knew better. My mom didn't cry because she missed me. She cried because she lost control over me." Then came the classic manipulation. An aunt reached out, claiming Mom had fainted from stress. Another relative hinted that if I didn't return soon, I'd regret it forever. Each message was carefully designed to hook into my old wounds, the desperate little girl who had spent her whole life begging for love. For a moment, I almost caved. I imagined walking through the front door, pretending everything was fine, letting her words roll off me like water. But then I remembered graduation day, her laugh, her lies, the way my entire family joined in at my expense. And in that memory, I found my strength. So I responded, not with anger, not with tears, but with truth. I texted Ethan back, "Family is more than blood. It's about love. And until Mom learns that, I'm better off without her." And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. It's been 2 years since I left home, and sometimes I still think about that girl who fell on stage at graduation. Not because of the stumble, but because of what it revealed. That moment, as humiliating as it was, gave me the clarity I had been searching for my entire life. For years, I believed that love had to be earned, that if I just tried harder, sacrificed more, or pushed myself further, my mom would finally see me. But the truth is, no amount of achievement can force someone to love you the way you deserve. Walking away wasn't easy. In fact, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it wasn't an escape. It was survival. And in choosing myself, I discovered something I had been missing all along: peace. Now, when I look around my little apartment filled with secondhand furniture and plants I've managed to keep alive, I feel proud. Not because it's perfect, but because it's mine. I built this life with my own hands. I found friends who cheer for me without condition, mentors who believe in my work, and a community that sees me not as a burden or a punchline, but as a person worthy of respect. I don't know if my mom will ever change. Maybe she never will. But I've stopped waiting for her. I've stopped letting her voice define my worth. And if you're listening to this, wondering whether you should hold on or finally let go, here's what I've learned. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Family isn't proven by blood. It's proven by love. My fall at graduation wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. The moment I stopped chasing approval and finally started living.